capacity compared with the other softwares. Even in our organization, mainly run our business on ERP platform. We are running mainly on ERP platform, even though we are heavily used on Excel for some activities like estimation and some data analysis and for some data sharing. Even to share some data in between packages, ERP and several packages, we have to use CSV files. I think you might hear about the previous session. To transfer data from one application to another, we might need to Excel CSV file. And also, I think most of you have heard about macros as a part of Excel, but I'm pretty sure majority of participants today never touch macro part of Excel. Though it's available as a part of Excel, I think most of you haven't touched that part of Excel. Generally, it involves coding based on the Visual Basic language, but it runs with Excel application. You can't run along macros. It should run along with the Visual Basic application. That's why it's called Visual Basic for application. Generally, macro called as a Visual Basic for application. It should run along with either Excel, either Word, or either AutoCAD kind of a application. Also, those has designed in such a way that even a beginner having a minimum knowledge about coding can create codes and compile macros. You don't need to be software engineer to work out the Excel. Today I'm trying to give that basic knowledge which you need to should gain as a beginner, so you can become a master of macros later once you have a basic knowledge which I am going to present today. So you can study yourself and you can learn from there, and you can search a lot of material from the internet, and you can increase your knowledge on macros. So I have shared 3 Excel files. Hope you have downloaded those files. So first I will begin with EX1 file, then I'll move to EX2, and next finally we will try to, if we have a time, we will move to EX3 files. So just another brief about macros and VBA. As I told you, macro is a piece of code, and it's a written in programming language that is Visual Basic. As I told you, it's run along with the Excel or Word kind of a program, and also this is available with the applications like Excel, Word, and AutoCAD. And I think last session also you heard about this object-oriented programming language. Macro also we will consider as an object-oriented program, where each and every part of Excel macro will identify as an object. We call it as, in Excel, anything and everything is an object. So workbook, macro identifier as an object. Even a particular sheet identified as an object, cells identified as an object, charts, table, everything will identify as an object. I think you will, it will be clear to you during the session when I going through some of the macros with our examples. So generally with the macros, you can create a new formula, because almost all the formulas we can't find from the Excel, by default Excel. We might need to create a formula. Sometimes we have to write a lengthy formula. Instead of that one, we can create a macro, and we can create a macro and have a simple formula instead of lengthy formula. I will show you how we can do it during the session, and we can create our own shortcut keys for different action, because almost every action we can't find shortcut keys. But with the macros, we can create a shortcut keys if you want. And we can automate some repetitive action. We might do several things together, sequence of activities together in Excel to achieve some task. We can automate that sequence of activities with the macro. And also we can create one command for set of actions. And also it will help to communicate in between different applications. Like we can extract data from AutoCAD to Excel, we can transfer data to Word to AutoCAD, that kind of thing also we can achieve through macros. Today content, mainly I divided into 6 sections. First we will look how to create a formula with macros, and then we look at how to record a macro and how to create a macro for sequence of activities, and how to assign the shortcut keys, and how to automate some repetitive action which we are doing our day-to-day life. And if time permits, I will try to show a little bit about dealing with user form. I think you have seen, if you're familiar with the Access, you can create a user form. Similarly, in Excel also, you can have a user form which will help to properly record data, maybe easily record data in a precise manner, and it will give you some good presentable quality to your Excel, maybe your POQs, maybe your rate analysis. It will give some presentable or user friendliness to your day-to-day Excel file. So now we are going to open our EX1 file. I think if you have a separate computer, you can start in one computer, and you can see slides in one computer, and you can practice it in another computer. So I will open my first Excel file, EX1. You also can open and see. So I'm going to share it now. Okay, I think everyone can see my Excel window. Okay. Generally, we have to deal with the macro. We have to find where we are editing or write macros. In Excel, there will be a tab called Developer. By default, it's not visible. By default, it's not visible, so you have to make it visible. That can be done by right-click and customizing the ribbon. And you can see, you can select on ribbon, and if you put a command customize ribbon, you will have this window there. Generally, this developer tab, you will see the developer tab here. Generally, it was disabled, but when you tick it, you can enable. So you will see developer tab in your ribbon. That's the way you can enable developer tab, because we will create, edit, and do all the macro related work with the developer tab. By default, this is not visible in the ribbon, but with enabling it, you can make it visible. Hope everyone make it visible, that developer tab. I think our host Buddhika if you have any issue, you can interrupt me and stop, because I think all of the things you can see from my screen. So if you have any issue, Buddhika, you can interrupt me and ask to do any changes or anything. Is it clear, Buddhika?
Yeah, it's clear, sir.
Okay. So mainly I will conduct my presentation in English, but in some places I might use Sinhala language to some extent, because some things I may not be able to describe in. I think it's better to describe in Sinhala to understand yourself, because this is a totally new topic for you. So I think all of you have opened the developer tab. So we will see what will be the Visual Basic interface. We want to see Visual Basic interface before we start to create macros. I think if you click the second sheet, the VBA interface, you will see some of the icons I have highlighted. We have a Visual Basic editor. If you click this one, the Visual Basic editor will open. You can close it. And we have a macro, list of macros. You can get it from here. And we have a macro recording button. We will see how it will work in the next part of the presentation. And most importantly, you have to click this one and enable all macros. Otherwise, none of the macro you created will not work in Excel. It will block by Excel security system. To make it enable, you have to, I think the last one, you have put enable this all macros. You can select a different option, but I recommend here to select enable all macros. Then only the created macros will properly function in your Excel sheets. And we have called add-in, and that also I will explain at the latter part. And we have a design mode, insert tab is there. If you want to add combo box, I think you might, I will explain at later. To design user forms, you need this insert and design mode section of the developer tab. Okay, this is about the developer tab in Ribbon. So we'll see what will be the Visual Basic editor. So you can, by clicking this Visual Basic icon or pressing Alt F11, you can jump to Visual Basic editor. If you open Visual Basic editor, I have illustrated in sheet 3, you will see this kind of a window. So it's basically, we have a project explorer, we call it as a project window, and this is called as a property window. You can, if it is not visible, you can enable from this icon. This is to enable project window, this is for property window, and this part we call it as a code window. We will write code in this part. Let's see from the Excel itself. If you open, I think you can see these windows. You can move here and there and place it as you require. You can place it in a different location if you want. If you place it in this order, that will be a little easy. So I will place it in this manner. So I have a coding in this area. I have Project Explorer here and the property window here. We will see what those are in next sessions. I think you will see all sheet names will be indicated here, because we can write codes for the each and every sheet, as well as we have a different area called module. That's the area we will write macros. So here we have one called module 1, which is blank. If you double click this formula 1, you see different formulas, different macros which I've written, which we can use for the session. So for this session, just open this module 1. So we will write our macros in this module 1. I will tell you how to write. Just make it ready module 1. Okay. And one other thing, I think it will be easy for you to have both Excel window. If you can open 2 windows in both sides, I will if you can open this side, I am having an Excel file. Which I have circulated EX1, and this side I will open my Visual Basic Editor. I have kept it both sides, so I can see the coding which I am going to write here, and simultaneously I can see their effect on Excel sheet. So I think it will be easy if you can open this Visual Basic Editor and Excel file in same screen. I think everyone, if it is not possible to you, it doesn't matter. I have just clearly heard about the presentation. You might can practice at the end of the presentation. I have written all the things very clearly, the way you can understand by yourself. So let's our first task to be write a new formula where I have selected to calculate linear meter rate of different bar diameters. So we are heavily using that formula, but we don't have formula in Excel. So I thought that will be the good formula to create for the quantity surveys. If you refer general formula in Excel, let's say if I refer if error formula, we make it as equal if error, we have a first value and we have a value for the error. For the subcode total formula, we have a function number and those reference. Likewise, I will name my formula as RF bar weight. That's the name I have selected, and I need to select bar diameter. So that may be a one cell. I have to select one cell as a bar diameter. It may be cell value with 10 millimeter or 12 millimeter or 16 millimeter or 20 millimeter. So that's how our formula we are going to write. So in macros, to create a formula, it will start, we call it as a functions. So our formula, our macro coding should start with function. And also we call it as a function declaration. That's how we will start our formula. So at the end, we call it as an end function. If you start function, it should be make it as an end function. This is our formula name. That means RF bar weight. That will be like if error, like subtotal, our formula name will be RF bar weight. So our coding should be start with function RF bar weight. Thereafter, we have to define what will be the bar diameter. That we call it as a property of inputs. So bar diameter should be a whole value or decimal value, or it's a numeric value. It will not be a text. So we use a format called double. In Visual Basic coding, I have used data types in last sheet. There are different data types. We have decimal, we have integer, Boolean, double, there are different data types. You can search it from the internet, as well as for your note, the last slide I have specified those are those data format. So for this one, it should be a numeric value. So I will use my D as double. That means it should be a numeric value with decimal. That means by double. So my formula should be, I have used this thumb rule that D multiplied by D divided by 162.162, we can derive the approximate value, most accurate value for the linear meter rate for the bar diameter. I will use this as a formula, and I have to close my macro. Let's see, you can copy this one and just paste it in macro window. Let's see what will happen. So I think you will see this automatically, the font color came blue color. That means it's properly identified by Visual Basic. So let's see how it will work. So my formula, it will look like it should be RF bar weight, and here I have referred C7 cell. This cell I have referred. This will be my bar diameter. So same thing I written here. If you type it in Excel RF bar weight, you will have this we created formula. The RF bar weight will come. Similarly, if you type sum, you will receive the formula. Similarly, now we created RF bar weight in macro coding. So if you type RF, your formula will come. So here we have to refer the bar diameter. So I think if you copy it from Excel, it will not come. I will write the formula again. RF bar weight D as double sorry, it should be start with function RF bar weight, and when you write this one, the end part automatically created by Visual Basic. So this will be our formula name. So it's better to copy same thing, and we will write our formula D multiplied by D divided by 162.162. So let's see whether our formula will work. I think there's a spelling mistake, that's why it doesn't come. So you will have the result. I think everyone know our value should be 0.617. So if it is a normal text general number, you have many decimal places. You can further fine-tune formula by, I think you know this one, round to 3 decimal places. So complete with 3 decimal places. I think earlier I copied from Excel and pasted it here. I think there will be a spelling mistake, so that's why it didn't work. But if you write it properly, you will have result. I think there will be a spelling mistakes. That's why it has happened. It should be the same value. If you name it here, it's better to copy the same thing here. I think if you copy, there will be a missing E here. So I will make it correct. So now if you put it similarly, so you will have a result. Likewise, I think you can understand the formula here. This is the formula name. We have to specify what will be result for the RF bar weight. It should be this cell value, that should be a decimal value. It should be multiplied by with the same value and divided by 162.162. And I have round up to 3 decimal places. So you will have a result. I think you can understand the concept behind that. So any formula, if you are going to write in VBA, I mean as a macro, it should start with the function, and you have to give formula name, and you have to define the variable, and you have to specify the calculation of formula, and you have to close it as a end function. Let's see a different formula. I will open chat box and see any comments. Yeah, thank you. You have mentioned E missing from the formula. That's what happened. I think now you can easily create a formula here. I think if you have any issue after this EX1, I will give you time to ask the questions, so you can discuss further about it. So thereafter, I will I have created few formula here. We'll see a different formula here. What I have written as a bar weight 2. We will write the same formula in a different manner. I think you can open the formula window. The second one, we formula call it as RF bar weight 2. There, the similar formula I created a different way. I started with checking condition. If it is diameter is 10 millimeter, bar weight should be 0.617. Bar weight, if bar weight is 12 millimeter, that means D equals 12, bar weight equals 0.88. If it is 16 millimeter, it should be 1.675. If it's not equal to none of the 3, for the moment I will make it as a 0. So in the next sheet I have used this bar weight, we can see changing this one to bar weight 2 formula. Let's see, we write bar weight 2, that was our formula name. So it will give you a result. But for the 20, we don't have formula here. So we checked only up to 16, but if you need, you can go up to all the bar diameters. Here what we have done is, we check the condition. The previous one, we just write the formula saying that what will be the bar weight value. But here, our argument is, if D equals 10, then bar weight 2 value should be 0.617. If not, we represent if not as else if. If not D equals 12, then bar weight should be equals to 0.888. මම හිතන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙනවා ඇති මෙතෙන්දී අපි කරන්නේ 10ද කියලා චෙක් කරනවා 10ට අද bar diameter එක 10 තියෙනවා නම් සෙල් එකේ value එක 10 නම් අපි 0.617 කියන එක දෙනවා. අන්න ඒ විදිහට මේ ෆෝමියුලා එක ලියාගෙන යනවා. අපිට ඕන නම් මෙතෙන්දී අපි ලිව්වොත් මේ විදිහටම copy කරලා මේක 20 නම් අපේ value එක let's say 2.467, then we should have value here. I think you can now understand the philosophy behind that. So with this kind of a argument, I think the similar thing you will do with the Excel formulas. The similar argument we can have for the macros also. Only you need to have some kind of a knowledge about this word, else if, end if, else kind of a things. Those are the new things. But when you touch little bit about the macros, you will understand how that macro will work. I think you can understand this part now. If you need for the 25 millimeter bars, that also you can continue writing below this one. So with the, again, as we did in the previous example, with the end function, you can close the macro coding. So this is one macro. Okay. So again, since we don't have defined for the 25, so we don't have value here. If it is a 20 millimeter, we should have a value. So that means our formula will work. So I will show one other example for the retention. Let's see. I have created the formula for the retention. To calculate the retention value, I need 4 parameters. So I will specify 4 parameters like A as double, B as double, that means those are decimal value, C also double, D also double. So my A should be contract value, this is the contract sum. You will see in the 6th sheet. And my B should be the retention percentage, this will be 10%. And the maximum retention should be C, and D should be the value of work done, which is mentioned here. So I have this defined my formula if A multiplied by C, contract value multiplied by maximum retention greater than work done multiplied by retention percentage, then my value should be contract value multiplied by retention. If not, that means if we exceeded maximum retention percentage, our value should be contract value multiplied by multiple maximum retention percentage. And since we started as a if, we have to finish as end if. every argument you created here, it should be finished with the end. We created the argument here if, and we have to finish it if. Again, here also we created it as a if with if and finish it end if. So let's see how it will work. I have a macro called retention macro. Then my macro name is here retention. I have defined the calculation for the retention macro. So first I will use as a contract sum because I decided A should be the contract value, B should be retention, and C should be maximum retention. Here I have link. D should be the work done. So I will have the result. If you use the normal if formula, which is in Excel, the same thing you will have here with the created formula by ourselves. We have a same result. If you copy it to further below, you will have the same result. You will notice this green color text within the coding. We call it as a notes. If you have a this sign, apostrophe sign, you can make it as a code. If you don't want to run this one with the apostrophe sign, you can make it as a note. But this is this part we need for the macro, so we will keep it as it is. But if you need to put a note similar to this one, that will be very important. If you come later, you want to study about the formula. Sometimes you may not remember how we have created the formula. So that kind of a note will help you to refresh your memory as how you created the formula. I will show another example where this is a very complex formula. I mean, I think you have heard about this BS 8666 code. As per the BX code, we have several conditions. We have different bar shapes, and each different bar shapes have a different formula. So if you are going to create a formula from Excel to cover each and every condition, that will be very huge formula. Instead of that one, you can create a macro as I did here. I have named it as bar length 8666, reference to the BS code, because I am with the macro, I am going to check more than 20 to 30 condition to have my result. So it's again, it start with the if condition. If here this one you also can define as a it should be, it's better if you can define this as a S as double, B as double, likewise. But if you haven't specified it, Excel VBA will consider it as a numbers. So here I haven't defined it as a double, but right now by default Excel will identify it as a numbers. So I have a different variable here, S A B C D E F. A B C D will refer this A B C D E F as indicated in BS codes. Diameter is the bar diameter, and S is the shape code. So those are my variables. Here previously I have 4 variables for this one. This one I have 1 variable. Here I have different variable. So I will check condition with the if condition. If S equals 0, that means this one, then bar length should be A. Else, if not, that means if not, S equals 1, again for this condition, bar length should be A. Else if it is not those 2 previous condition, S equals, that means bar code equals 11, my formula will be this one. It almost similar to this formula. And if my shape code equals 12, my formula will be this one. Likewise, I can check more than 30 conditions without any issue. And finally, I will say if it is not shape codes not equal to any number, any code, my bar length should be 0. That means if it cannot identify any relevant shape code, the length should be indicated as 0. Similarly, I have to finish this if condition with end if, and I will round my bar length to 2 decimal places. Let's see how it has worked. For the moment, I will open to full screen this one. So here I have written my formula in G6 cell, where I have reversed N6 as a shape code. I think you can remember my order. I have to follow the order here. This will be the shape code. This will refer A, B, C, D, E, and F. And E6, that means the last one should be bar diameter. So this will give based on the shape code, and it will refer to the macro formula and will give me a result. Let's see if it is 0, it should be equal to the value of A. That's why it will give A. So if it is 11, that will be only A and B. So this will give calculation considering those two values. I think you can understand how it will work. So this is very complex formula. If you write this one in Excel, that will be a mess. Theoretically, I think you can't write this kind of a lengthy formula. So you can very simplify our formula. It's the length is only this one. It's a very simple formula, but we created from macros. So similarly, I will show the actual example, other example. This one macro we created. This is the results calculation of GPA value calculation sheet. This will be the formula which they have used earlier. You know, if you miss anything, if mistakenly if you delete anything, you can't trace it because it's a very lengthy formula and there will be a huge chance of having a mistake. But instead of that one, we can create a formula with the macro. That will be the macro formula we created, checking all the conditions. Similarly, what we did for the BS codes for the reinforcement length calculation. Let's see how that will work. Again, I think you can study later. This is, I have called function GPA. So I have created a formula here, and you can easily apply it as a simplified formula. Instead, otherwise, if you are not using macro to create a formula, you have to use these kind of a lengthy formula, which will be very dangerous. If mistakenly, if you have done any mistake here, you will not be able to trace your error. You'll see how long this normal formula is. Not only that, I think now you can see the basic behind creating a formula. You can, every formula will start with the function and your formula name and your variable and your argument. Most of the cases, your argument will start with if and else if kind of a condition. But when you're familiar, you can use a different things. Most of the formula I have created, I happen to use if and else if condition. Not only that, let's see, one of the main requirement we don't have in Excel is to spell currencies. We have a value here. We need to make it in text. We need to convert it into text, but there's no facility in Excel. But you can create a formula for that one also. That means I have created formula which is shown here. I call it as a spell currency. Actually, I haven't created it. You can download it from the internet. You can find this coding. If you search spell currency coding in VBA from the internet, you will find different formula and you can download it or copy it from the web page and properly paste in Visual Basic module. That means this Visual Basic, you can paste it to one module and you will have the your formula result. So in this case, if you change any value, you will have a particular your value in words. So some formula, that means some formula you can create, but if it is a complex formula, definitely you will be able to search it from the internet, but you should know how you paste, or you can get the formula or copy it from the internet and how you paste into your module. So once you paste it to module properly, you can have a result of that particular formula. So as example, this one available, I will open window. I will share the link. You can find a different formula which is available in the internet. So you will find this is called, they call it as spell number formula. Likewise, you can copy this coding from the internet and properly paste it to the module. So you will have a result. So this formula, I think you now realize its name is spell number. The formula starts with the spell number, but I have used here different formula. It called spell currency. So my formula start with spell currency and I have to refer this value. Okay. I think you have kind of an idea about the creation of formula. Either you can create it if you are creative enough, or you can search it from the internet. And I think now you know how to get the coding from the internet and properly make it in your macro. Hope this is the first part, that all about creating formula. I have the last slide will describe about the data format, where you have to define it as a decimal or integer or different types based on the data you are going to put it here. If it is a date, this should be declared as a date, S as date, or S as Boolean like. Here I have I didn't any formatting, so Excel will consider it as a numbers. That's what happened. Otherwise, I have to define what will be my data type. So I think with this one, you will have some idea how to create your own formula with Excel. So I will open for maybe 5 minutes. If you have any question, I think Lakmal, do we move into next session and have a question, or how it will work?
Yes, sir. We will move to next session. After that, we
Okay.
will.
Okay. For that one, you have to open my next example, that is EX1, EX2, sorry, EX2 sheets, and open it and make it as you have done in previous one. Split screen into two. One side you will have a Visual Basic editor, and one side better to have your Excel file. So we'll start with the first one. There I will describe about macro recording. So now you might be little fear. How do you know those codes? You are not a software engineer or any person who familiar with the coding. I think for the formula, you might have some idea. It's almost similar to our Excel formula. I have used roundup with condition. It's almost similar to Excel formula. I think you can have some idea how it will work. But for the complex commands, you since you are not a programmer, you are not a coding person, you wonder how I know about the macro codes. The Excel has provided a facility for this one. There is an option called record macro. So for that one, I think those are the modules. We have to use modules to create our macros. I think better you create module here. You can create module by right click and insert module. So it will create it as a module one. So we will start our macro recording with the module one. Okay. That means every action we are doing, every steps we are doing, every changes we are doing in Excel sheet will record it in macro. That facility is provided because the Microsoft knows the Excel users are not software engineers or coding persons. So they have provided that facility to study, one thing to study about the macros, and that can be facilitated to create your own macro coding with the help of record function. So here, what I'm going to do, first I will, it's better if you can make it to standard one. Just what I am going to do, I'm going to record new macro here. I have given instruction also here. You need to go to developer tab and you will see macro recording button here. You will see macro recording button here. So there you can start recording macros. So let's see how it will work. I'm going to record my first macro. If you start recording, it will open up window. So I will rename it as my first macro. You can't keep space, at least you should keep underscore sign. For the macro name, you can't have a spaces. It should be a continuous and continuous word. So they have provided you option to assign the shortcut key. For this one, I will assign Control Shift L. If you press Shift L, that will identify by Excel. You just have to press Shift L. You have to put cursor on the box, and if you press Shift L, so that will assign as a shortcut key. That means our shortcut key for this one is Control Shift L. It is advisable to use combination with the Shift because Control plus key combination already utilized for might be Windows or might be for the Excel general commands. Also, Alt plus combination already utilized for the Excel and Windows. So they have vacant combination with the Shift shortcut for your customized shortcut key. Your customized shortcut key. Let's make it okay. So my formula now recording. So what I am going to do is I will change the font fill color, again font color. I will make it bold. I'll make it italic. I will change my font type, and I will increase font size, and I will move my cursor to this cell, that means C2 cell, and I will stop my formula. I mean macro recording. I have an option here to stop recording, as well as you will see bottom part of the here again a stop button is there. Either you can use either button and stop your macro. So you will, something has happened, and I think most of you it will open a new module and recorded the macro as a module 2. I think you also have the same thing. Just open the module 2. You will see how it has recorded. So let's see, retrieve that command. So I will change my A1 cells as it in the previous. So if I press Control Shift L, that macro will run. Similarly, if you put cursor into Visual Basic Editor, and there will be a play button here, you will notice it, play button. If you run play button, your macro will run. Okay, so that means we have recorded macro. That means we have recorded sequence of activities, assigning shortcut key as Control Shift L. Now you can retrieve very easily different set of activities with shortcut key. You will notice if I place my mouse pointer in a different cells, every time I press Control Shift L, that means if I run macro, it will change A1 cells. So sometimes we need to change our active cells. So for this time macro recorded, you will see here it says A1 cell select. So that means macro itself identified. It will start with A1 cell. So there are another option in macro recording. We will have another option called use relative reference. We will going to record our next macro with relative reference. So I will enable relative reference. You will see this is being highlighted once you activated use relative reference. So I'm going to record my next macro with the relative reference. I will put my mouse pointer to A6 cell, and now I'm going to record my next macro. I will name it as my first macro 2. We can't have similar name for another macro, so I will make it as a 2, and I will assign Control Shift K as my shortcut key. So I will start doing the similar thing. I will change font fill color, font color, make it bold, italic, change font type, and increase font size, and I will stop. I will select this cell as I did earlier, and further I will change this cell color also to make it very clear, and I'm going to stop my macro. Simultaneously, you will see in the left side, if you open our Visual Basic editor, how it going to record. The way it recorded, you will see. Let's see. We will try to run our next macro with the Control-Shift-K key. For the moment, I will paste my mouse pointer to C11 cells. When I run with Control-Shift-K, with reference to the active cell at that time, it will change and move with reference my cells with reference to that one. If I selected these cells, Control-Shift-K, similar thing will happen. But my previous one, I didn't use that relative reference. That means every time it will select A1 cells. So if you want to do your task particularly to your active cell or your current cell, you have to use this relative reference. Also, there is another option in Excel with F8 key. I think now when we run macro, everything will completed and we'll see the result, but there is an option in Excel to run step by step with F8 key. Let's run. For this, I will select CA21 cells and I'm going to run it by step by pressing F8 key. Each time I press F8 key, you will see the yellow color highlighting different coding. So you will see my different action will change as per different action.
There are some comments to increase the volume from your end. It is possible. Can you increase the volume?
I will talk a little louder then.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
I think all the instructions are given in the right side. In addition to my voice, I think you can refer this one also. It's very clearly indicated. Anyway, I will try to speak a little loud. I don't think I have another option. Anyway, I will speak a little loud. Hope that will work. So when I run F8, so you can see how it works step by step with F8 key. So we explore a little bit about our macro code. So those will recorded as our shortcut key indicated as our notes with the post office sign. And here it the code has start with selection interior pattern X solid. Likewise, it has started and the width has end. They closed the width argument with end width, and again start different argument. And let's see how it will work. Here you will see selection font bold. It says true. Let's see. I will change it to false. Here also italic, I will change it to false. Let's see what will happen. So I will make it as an original text. So let's run and see what will happen. Control-Shift-K. I will run this formula again. I will change to false. That means I am giving command to not to change. It will not be bold. That's what it means. And it will not be italic. Let's see how that will work. It didn't make italic, but it make it bold. So I think in a different location I have to change it. Oh no. It was, let's see how it will work. With the Control Shift K. I think let's see, there will be a place, another place, the same fold will be there. Let's see by changing font size. I will change this to 24. Let's see what will happen. So it will increase. Similarly, you can edit your macro formula as per your understanding. You can study and see how that will change. You will see some of the things, some of the part of the macro coding which is not relevant. That means if it is say these things, if nothing has specified here, so we can delete some of the things, make it simple. So this will indicate the color change. So I will keep it as it is. This will reflect the font color change. I will keep it as it is. Don't need shading. So if you change it to different font, it will change to different font. So here they haven't used strike through, superscript and all. So all the unnecessary thing you can delete. You have to do it very cautiously. We'll see how that will work. Still my formula will work, but some of the unnecessary thing you can remove it. So likewise, Excel will record the macro coding. You can study about the coding and edit as per your requirement. You might mistakenly put font size as, when you're recording, you make it as a 24. If you want it to 16, you just can change it from your coding. I think this will give you some indication how macro recording will work. And after you play little time with the macros, you can study how these code will work. So we'll move into next sheet. And from this sheet, what we did was we created sequence of activities and we assigned shortcut key. And we try by changing recorded macro and how it work. And let's, in the next sheets, we will see how we can use that kind of a thing in our practical quantity surveying life. And also you will notice about the difference between relative reference, enabling relative reference, and disabling relative reference. If you disable relative reference, the cell select will be selecting each time you run the macros. But if you enable relative reference, the cell, that means active cell, when you start the macro, will have an effect. So the next example, what I am going to do is, I have a requirement. Let's say might be you have a similar requirement. I have a data sheet. This will be linked to some external data source or another Excel file, which will be updated time to time. So I need some analysis from this particular sheet. I will show you what kind of analysis I'm going to have. So I need analysis. Like what I will do is I will select entire sheet. I'm going to paste it here as a values. I will apply filter here. I need all the value in descending order. That means I need largest value of the particular data range to the above. And I again categorize as a labor material separately. I have a labor highest value, material highest value, like we have a data set. But this one is a raw data set, which might link to a different data sheet, maybe external sheet or another application. But if I need time to time, I will do these steps and have this result. So instead of doing these sequence of activities, for this one also, we can write a macro. Let's see how it will work. So I'm going to write another macro for this one. First, I will delete this, my second sheet. Sorry, only delete the data. So all the formatting and column width will remain as it is. So for this one, what I am going to do is every time I need to extract a data to other sheet, which I will do is I will select A1 sheet and with Control, Shift and arrow keys, I will select entire data sheet and move to A1 cells and paste my data set. So that means every time we refer A1 cells of sheet 2 and A1 cells of sheet 3, that means we don't need to enable relative reference. I will disable relative reference and I'm going to start macro recording. So I will start macro recording here. I will name it as analysis. I will assign shortcut key as Control-Shift-J. So I'm going to start macro. I will select A1 cell. You will see from the macro, it's already identified. With the Control-Shift arrow key, I will select entire sheet. You will see control macro recorded as end Excel to right and end Excel to down. That means that's the code to select in the similar manner entire data set. I will make it copy. So I'll copy data set. It's already recorded in macro. I will move to my third sheet, select A1 cell and paste my data as a value. So now I'm going to apply my data sorting with the filter option. So everything is recorded in macro. And I will sort it to largest to small. The next sorting to be, let's say, A to Z. So I done my all sequence of activities. I will stop my macro. So let's see how it will work. Generally, this will be a blank one. So my shortcut should be Control-Shift-J. Let's see whether it will work. If I press Control-Shift-J, all the data will move to next sheet and my sorting requirement will be done. You can see by pressing F8 key how this will work. I will record another macro because I need to clear. Every time I need to clear, I need to have a fresh sheet for here. I will create another macro which is called clear. I will assign my shortcut key. We already used LKJ. We'll use this one for H. Okay. So with the macro, I will select entire data, just press delete key, and I'll stop macro. So every time that when I run this macro, every data in this particular sheet will delete, but it will remain all the required format and column width. So now let's see by running each and every steps with the F8 key. With the previous analysis macro. So I will start pressing F8 key. It will start, select A1 and select my data range, copy and move to next sheet and paste values and do the sorting. And do the sorting. I think you will notice all the sequence of activities I have run with the macro, and I already assigned shortcut key for that. Likewise, you can have a different sequence of activities, and also if you need, you can have a shortcut key. You don't need to repeat different commands each and every time. That was the advantage of the macro. I think you will got my point. Okay, let's see another example. So in this case, I'm going to have I think each and every organization have a different formats for the BOQ. So you might have a different heading 1 type, you might have a different heading 2 types, you might have a different heading 3 types. Instead of remembering, you don't need to remember your heading 1 should be Arial, font size should be 12, it should be bold. You don't need to remember everything. You can create a macro and name it as a heading 1 macro. So every time you repeat heading 1 macro, you will have the results. So I have a module called repetitive task. I think you will notice in the module list of modules. So one of the macro I have created, you also can create it if you need. In after opening module 2, you can create the similar way you did in our first sheet recorded macro. You can have your required format and you can also assign the shortcut key. So once you run your macro, this is my heading 1A. I have named it as heading 1A. So if I run this macro, this will be my heading 1. I don't need to remember all the font type and all. It has previously recorded as a macro. I just have to retrieve it. So the things you have done in your first sheet, the similar thing you can have this is my heading 2 macro. If I just play here, so it will convert to my heading 2. You don't need to remember everything. Just have a shortcut key for to run. You need to run the macro. Similarly, if you need 3, I have previously created the code. So one other problem you might face, you don't have a shortcut key as much as possible you want. So instead of that one, you can create a icon. It might be a shape. It might be a similar shape, or from the developer tab, you can have a icon. I think you will notice from here you can have icon. Soon after you created the icon, it will ask macro. You can here my heading 1A. So this button 2 will be my macro. if I click anything and if I press this button, I can make that macro to run. Even for this kind of a shape, by right click, and here you have option to assign macro. You can select, let's say here I will select heading 2. So if you click this icon, so your heading 2 macro will run. So let's see some different example. Another requirement might be you need to copy and insert cell. Might be if you are referring BOQ, you need to copy the previous one and paste it to below one. So let's see, we will create another macro. I will select A60 and I'm going to record a new macro. I will name it as a copy insert row, and I will assign Ctrl+Shift+F shortcut key. Ctrl+Shift+F. You need to remember here, since this one we need to use relative reference because we don't know which cell we will run the macros. It may be different cells. It's not one single cell. So you need to enable relative reference here. So from there you can copy and insert copy cell. And I will stop the macro. My shortcut key is Ctrl+Shift+F. Let's see how it will work. When I press Ctrl+Shift+F, my row will copy and paste it in above. I think that macro has recorded module 2. Yes, this is the one. Copy insert row macro. I think you will see the code. Active cell, entire row select, selection copy, selection insert. That's what it will work. That's how it has written. For that one also, if you need, you can assign, instead of shortcut key, if you need to assign icon, from here developer tab, you can have icon. You can select the name, copy, insert row. And you can rename this one, edit text. You can rename it. So every time that will copy. I think you get my point here. So next one, I think another example, most of the time we need to have a page border. So I will quickly show you how we can do the similar thing. I will create another macro. I will name it as a page border. I will assign shortcut key Ctrl+Shift+T. So I will select these 2 rows and I will go to format cell and border. I will select this middle line. And now I am going to stop recording. My shortcut key was Control Shift D. It was there, you will see. When I press Control D, I think I have started macro recording in the wrong place. I think I have to run it again. Yeah, I have started in the wrong place, that's why it will not work. I will create that macro again. To start, I have to place cursor. Let's say for this one, I will place the cursor in this cell, A94. I will start quickly again, page order. Control Shift D should be my shortcut key. So I will select this one and go to Format Cells and select, and I will stop recording. Let's see whether it will work. Now I press Control Shift D. You will see it's related to the place where my active cell is. It will create a border. Every time I press Control Shift D, you don't need to select everything and go to Format Cell, and you don't need to do those things every time. You just need to press Control Shift, your shortcut key with Control Shift D. So those are the frequently recurring thing for the quantity surveys: inserting page borders, changing heading 1 and 2, those are the things. So you can create a macro and assign shortcut keys or like icon, and you can retrieve the sequence of activities with one command. So I think you might have some idea. So let's see another example. One of the major example quantity surveys are facing, we don't have a change case in Excel. We have a Word. We have similar in Word, PowerPoint, but not in Excel. Either you have to use formula. But instead of that one, you can create a Visual Basic command to have this change case functionality. I have created module here. I think it's better you refer to that module. Just open it. This is the formula. I think you, by code itself, you might have some idea how it will work. My formula name, code name is uppercase 2, and what it says is active cell dot value. That means it refers to value of active cells, and we have written within bracket active cells and make it to U case. U case means the macro code that will direct to change that means convert it to uppercase letters. Let's see how that macro will work. If I select it here and when I run macro, it will change to the uppercase. I have similarly the lowercase macro. If I play it for the similar cell, it will change the lowercase. I think you will notice you don't have similar thing in Excel. You don't have a direct command. Create a command. Similarly, you can assign shortcut key for this one. And again, you might have some idea what that means. This refers to value of active cell, and macro will ask to change it to uppercase. That's how it will written. What kind of a code you have to use for this kind of action? You just search it, Google it from the internet, how in Excel VBA change case. So you will have a different set of results, but you need to know how you will get it, that data from the internet or your search finding, and apply here. Previously, for the formula, we start with function, but you will notice every macro we have written here start with sub and it's finished with n sub. For the formulas, we will start with function and finish with n function. Similarly, for the each and every macro we created, start with sub and finish with n sub. So for the proper case, that means capitalize each first letters of each word. We didn't have a simple code for the proper case. We need to use little lengthy one, but easily you can get this direction from the internet. And special thing you need to know how the code you identify from the internet apply in your macro. So even you can have a proper case. If you run this macro, it will convert it to proper case. So if you need to have a set of cells, if you need to convert it to uppercase, you can't have this formula. It will change only first selection. For these kind of a thing, you need to have a different arrangement. I will use this formula. I will little explain how it works. If you select this one and play, every cells in your selection will change. So let's little explore about the formula. There previously we have defined our variables as D as double, like here also for the macros command, we have to define them as a dim. That's the standard. So we have to define variables. Here we define one as dim RNG, that will be our variable, as a range. That means this range. Dim C also as a range. C, what we refer in the macro language, that means the particular cell. And set range as selection. That means range should be RNG equals to our selection, and each C in RNG, that means each cell in our range, C dot value, cell value changed to uppercase. The similar one will do it here, but with next C command, it will repeat the similar command, repeat one by one. If you run this command with F8, let's see how it will work. I will select this entire range. I will just F8 key. To run F8 key, you have to select Visual Basic Editor. So one set has run and one has changed, and now the next C means it will repeat. The next selection, it will select. I will press F8, the next one will change. Likewise, it will repeat. That means it kind of a loop. We created the loop. I think this may be little difficult to you, but if you're little familiar with the macro coding, you will realize how that will work. What we have created here, we define different variables and create a loop. Every time it will, from the selection, it will change one cell to uppercase. So we'll move into another formula, another macro coding, that's to define to have a auto numbering kind of a thing. Let's see how it will work. Instead of putting one by one, we are trying to create a macro to have a auto numbering. I will delete this entire number set. So what I am going to do is I will refer the item number, this item, whether I will check whether the unit column has any text or anything. So if it is there, I will put 1 here. The next one, I will move to next one. If there is any value, my value should be 1 plus 1. That's what we doing the, if we write the formula, that's how we will do it. The similar thing, I will create it in macro environment. So I have created macro in auto numbering 1. Just to have some idea, first, what I have to do is I need to check this has value. So let's see how I have derived this. I have created a variable like previously. I created a variable with dim n as integer. Integer means whole number without decimal. If you refer to the data format, you will notice it. I will create a variable as n as integer. That means full number. I will just define variable here. For n should be equal to value of active cell. N value should be, the variable value should be equal to active cell. What I am going to do next is I will select range S7. I will select H7 and that will be the active cell then. The H7 value should be N. Previously I referred the active cell value and that particular active cell value will reflect in H7 cell. We'll see how that macro will work. I'm going to run. I will first place in A7 cell. That will be my active cell now. I will run this macro. I will delete H1 value. So if I run this macro, so this particular value will replace in H7 cell. If it is maybe 3, if I run macro again, H7 value change it to 3. You will notice with this macro commands, you can read the content of the cell and assign that particular value to our variable, that means n. Okay, I think this might be a little difficult as you beginner, but I have explained everything in this example. You might leisurely go through it and see how it will work. So now let's see how we can improve this macro to our auto numbering format. So in this one, what I am going to do is I will define my variable as integer, and what I am doing is I will start with the unit, this C1 column, and with the control down arrow, I will jump to A7. That means the cell having some content, and there that what mean with selection index select. And now my active cell is this one. I will refer with the offset. I think Excel formula has an offset formula where it refers reference cell particular to the active cells. So it refers the root, that means -2 means the command active cell dot offset, that means to two columns left side. The cell with that means A7 cells value to A, value to number 1. And again, it will check that particular value. And again, we'll move to 1 down. And now the n should be the 1. Variable identified as a 1. And with this command, it will write n plus 1. My previously n identified as a 1, and it will add by macro itself, it will add another 1, and this offset this value, change it to 2. Let's see with the F8 how this will work. I will start with this one. I will run these macros with F8. Now we are going to make it Excel down. Now our A7 cell selected, and our first number recorded by macro, and it will jump to the next item, next unit, and it already recorded n value, variable value as a 1. Now it will make it 1 plus n. That means 1 plus 1, it should be 2. Again, it will jump to next one and recorded already with the offset. It will refer the variable value as a 2 now with reference to the C9 cells. Now it refers to the variable value as a 2. Now again, it will add 1 and change the value as a 3. If you write it further below, you can have this numbering for the entire sheet, but it will be difficult to write the entire things further below. Instead of, we have option called looping it, the similar as we did for the uppercase formula for the set, we can have a loop. So we'll see, I have created. So there, what I does is do while. We have a code in macro called do while. That means repeat the action until active cell value not equal to n. What I have done was the last one I make it as an end, so that my command will repeat until it will reach to end. It will equal to n. Let's see with the F8 how that macro will work. I will delete all the numbering. I will start with the unit 1. I will place cursor for the particular macro. With the F8, I will start. So it will write first one, first number, and now our loop will start. You will see it will recorded numbering. So that's the way it will work with the loop command. But I ask to loop until the cell value equals to n. Okay. So let's see if we run entire macro. Stop it. If you just run entire macro, you have to start with the unit column. Okay. Within a second, you will have all the numbering as you require. So likewise, if you little creative enough, and if you try, if you need, since you are not familiar with coding, you might need to refer to maybe internet, and there are a lot of examples how to see how it will work, and you can study it and do it here. The next one, I have the similar thing, I have put another additional one. I have checked whether active sheet name. We'll see here active sheet name. I have checked whether it's a item number, because this formula should run only in this particular sheet. If you run in a different sheet like this, you don't have a result. So if you need to run in a particular sheet, so I have checked another condition. If active sheet name equals not equals to our relevant sheet name, with this one it will give a message saying you are in a wrong sheet. Let's see how it will work. Find this macro. This will give you a message. That's how we can create a message box. So you can incorporate some interactive messages to your macros. I think those things you can study when you are familiar with macro coding. So one small thing, one other thing, I think I will take another 10 minutes. I will try to finish it before 8. Extract data, you can open this extract data module where I'm going to do extract data from this BOQ and just paste it to our measurement sheet. I don't need to refer each and every time. If I run this macro, my active cell reference values will come. Let's see if I start run macro with here. So all the things will automatically bring it to here. I think you will see how it will work. I have defined 3 variables for the item number, description, unit. So it will start with sheet 6 select, my required sheet selection, and I will use this one to go to the first column. The Excel to left, index cell to left means go to first extreme end. So that means go to first column, and my active cell value should be equals to I. That means item number. Active cells offset 1. That means one column to the right equals to D. 2 columns to the right, it's unit. And macro then select measurement sheet, and again we'll go to extreme end, because you have to start writing from here to here. You have to go to extreme end, so that's why index cell to left. And those variable value previously identified by the macro itself, now paste it to our measurement sheet. That's how this macro will work. Okay, some of the few example I have written here, and few notes I need to be made. I think you will notice this sheet. If you're going to save it in the format of macro enable workbook format. Okay, so it's not a normal Excel sheet. To enable macros, to run those macros, you have to be in a macro enable worksheet. So every time you create a macro, you have to save it in macro enables workbook. So in that time, your recorded macro will remain your particular sheet. If you need to, there are another option. I will open it here. That means if you close that particular Excel file, your macro will not available. So there is an option to make it to Excel core. That means even if you close it, your macro to work, you have to save that particular file in as a macro adding. I think here I have put the formula. If you make it to save a copy as adding, Excel adding, it will save to Excel adding. All the macros will save to Excel. There's a folder in Excel folder in your computer called adding folder. It will save to adding. Then you have to enable it from developer tab. You will notice here there is a option for Excel adding. If you save it here, in my computer I have created one adding, so I need to enable this one. Once I enable this one, all the codes in that particular adding file come and work as default Excel. I mean, even without having your recorded macro sheet, that macros will work. I think when you are going to save it as an add-in file, you need to keep your necessary macros. All unnecessary macros should be deleted. Only necessary files should be save it as add-in files. Otherwise, because every time you open the Excel, all the add-in, that means recorded macro which is inbuilt to Excel, your core Excel, will open. So that means you need to minimize unnecessary macros and everything. That if you're going to save it, your macros as an add-in file, it should be a plain file. Generally, like formulas, let's say if you created a bar weight formula, when one file contains the formula and when you send it to another person, if that person doesn't have that macro, it will show it as a result. So better to keep that macro in particular file. That means you have to save it as a macro enable file. So the next time the next person open it in a different computer, that macro will be there. Some kind of a command like change case, your headings, those kind of a commands you can make it to your Excel core. That means every time you open any file, those macro will be there. And you can open add-in folder from here. And if you need to delete your unnecessary add-in file, you can delete it from here. Sometimes it will not allow to delete, so you have to go back and open a new window and close all your Excel sheets, and you can delete your add-in files. And you can introduce fresh corrected add-in file to your add-in folder. That's how it will work. But every time you have to enable by putting tick on these position to activate your recorded macros in each and every Excel sheet you open. Okay. I will show another option, and there will be, you can assign shortcut key, or you can have a command button. Another option, you can have your macros in your ribbon. So that will work. I will show the guideline here, the last sheet. You can go to customize ribbon, and you can create a new tab. So I have created new tab here. So here with the commands, you can select the macros. So all the macros will be visible. So if you need to bring macros to your particular cells with the add, it will come to your particulars you created new tab. So if I select OK, now I have a my macro one, and my macro commands are here. So if I press this command, So it will change. So that will applicable then to only to your office, or your computer. And there are, as I told you, there are three options. One is you can have a shortcut key, you can have an icon in the ribbon, or you can have a command button, as I told you earlier. And there are important things before you save macro as add-in. It should be a play. I mean, you have to remove all unnecessary things. Since with the macros you are changing integrity of Excel, you have to be cautious. You have to make sure you will not clash with the existing shortcut keys of the Excel, like Control P. You might assign Control P for your macros, that the previous Control P for the printing will not work there. So since you are changing the integrity of Excel, you have to be careful. And one most important thing you have to remember is you don't have a undo button in macros. So if you run macro, you can't have an undo for that. That you have to remember. And I think I have another example, but I think time will not permit for that one. We might have another session if you are interested. Here, what I have taught you was the basic, and from here, I think there are a lot of examples in internet. Here I have taught you the basic thing, so you can find the codes from the internet, and I think you have some idea now to have your own macro commands as well as macro formulas. I think with that, have to stop today. I think Buddhika, you can start the questions.
Yeah, we have another 15 minutes left. Any questions there? You can raise the hand, then we can unmute them. I check out the chat box. There are no questions. Participants.
I don't know. Will it be too complex for the participants? I don't know. Since this is a totally new subject, EX3 files. I think it will take little time. I briefly explained it as shared. I will briefly explain what was in that particular file. Before that, I think I have a question in chat box. So can't we link these macros with MS project and others? That's a little complex one. I think today the time will not sufficient to, and it's too early. I think you have to practice a little bit with, and play a little bit with the macros. Then only you can understand little complex commands. This is very basic thing what I have what I have taught today. But yes, we can do. We can link with the AutoCAD. We can link with the MS Word. We can link with the MS project. With the Visual Basic application, we can, if you have a, let's say, AutoCAD facilitate Visual Basic application, you can have a combination. That means direct link in between two applications. If you install AutoCAD, you have to separately install VBA enabler. If you install VBA enabler, you can have a link in between two applications. But it's little complex. I think today it's not the correct time. I think better you try to play with little macros, and you can have some idea. What I try here was to give some basic introduction how to create a formula the basic concept of it. Otherwise, I know many quantity surveyors uh, never open that developer tab. I think it was there from the beginning. I think you never open and see what was there in the developer tab. I think now you can open it and play with the macros and study about it and make it to do your work more efficiently and effectively. I think that was today my aim. Yeah, I'm going to describe that a bit. I will show you a little about what the content of EX3 file. So there, if you start EXE file, it will start with the user form. You just have to make a continue. What I try to explain with the EX3 file about the user forms. I think if you open developer tab, you will see different user forms here. And also there will be a module. When you open this EX3 file, you will notice one user form will pop up. But how I have created that was, I have created coding for this. You will see in EX3 one, there will be a workbook. I will assign macro to work when that particular workbook open. That's why when it will open, I have a macro called form startup. Then form startup should be this particular form. If you double click form, it will show the form. So what I have asked was to open that particular user form and select BOQ sheet and select range 1. So that's what. And you can open these different form and see how it works, but I think time will not permit for today. We might have a different session if you are interested. But you can try and see how those things will happen. These coding for the particular user form, you can find the coding by right clicking. You can find the code for the particular user form. If you double click, it will open user form, and if you right click and view code, you might have some idea how it has worked, and you can play with it and see how it will work.